Celebration Move podcast. My name is Zoe, and this is one that I did with Kirsten last week, but just because it is 3 hours, it took me a while to get it all together. So we are talking about her first solo 100 kilometres at UTA in the Blue Mountains, but rather than doing a race report, which she's shared in the community if you want to check that out, we just sort of looked at a lot of the questions that pop up around transitioning into trail running, what the training actually looks like, how much running you have to do for those ultra distances, how much hiking is involved, what the fueling looks like, all of those sorts of things, and a bunch of other things which I'm sure we got wildly off topic with. So I'm sure that you'll enjoy it, but it's a long one, so you might want to listen to it over a few long runs.
It's one of those kind of things that people either love it or they hate it. You know, the most common word that you hear at the finish line, the common phrase you hear at the finish line is what the actual fuck was that all about? I'm never fucking doing that again is seriously the most common phrase you hear at the finish line of no matter what distance of UTA.
Which makes it an intriguing choice for somebody who decided
for
that they
first
wanted
time
to do 100 kilometres to prove to themselves that they're not all awful, is to go to UTA.
It's like, it's a proving ground. It's like a baptism by fire. Like people say, oh, you're amazing, oh, you're awesome. It's like, I'm no more awesome than somebody who can run a fast marathon. Like that is, it takes training. I'm no more awesome than someone who can run a 20-minute 5K. That's, it's not the distance that is, you just keep moving, but it's harder to do some other things are much harder to do. It's just that this is my particular thing that I've decided that I like to do, that gives me a buzz. So, and that maybe we can talk about this whole, you don't have to, and we come across it in the road stuff as well, that further is not necessarily better. What is it that floats your boat rather than this constant sort of
it's hard with
it's because it's not a competition and it's not a matter of one-upmanship.
That tension of on the one hand, sometimes people thinking more is better, and then also on the other hand, people in some way fear a certain style of training, so they kind of go, oh, I'll just do, I've seen so many people do this, I'll run a marathon, I'll never do any specific training for it, I'll just run long distances, and that way I can avoid all of the things that I don't want to do, and then it won't matter what the pace is because I've run a marathon and no one's going to care, and
because I've run a marathon.
And that's sort of, but then if you never do all of those sorts of, if you kind of avoid those things in training, they're probably going to come and bite you in the ass during the actual marathon.
Probably in the second half of the actual marathon.
The last 10Ks in hell.
The scorpion's tail.
And and I think that there's also just, there's, even this morning I was thinking, because I haven't actually registered for the Gold Coast yet. It's just one of those things where I was like,
Zoe, what if it sells out? How can you live with yourself? How are you not having a minor panic attack?
Part of it is because I wasn't 100% sure that my mum could look after the kids, and Josh is registered with his team at work. So I was like, if I end up having to take the kids, that's cool. I can still be there at the finish line and do all of that.
Yep.
And so it kind of held off for that. And then I was thinking, maybe I should register for the marathon instead. I'm like, no.
Zoe,
do
what are you
that.
doing? No. Settle. Pick a cold marathon if you're going to run a marathon.
And I was like, I
Pick
really
one
like
where
the
you have to run
gold
it in
medals
25
that they
degrees.
have for the marathon. but yeah,
Pick one with a nice medal.
Don't do that. That doesn't seem good. So yeah,
Do the
like,
Queenstown Marathon instead. They've got beautiful medals.
Which marathon?
The Queenstown Marathon in New Zealand.
Yeah, that one looks. That one does look pretty. It's nice, particularly
Got
too
very
because
pretty
I
medal.
think that it's not like it's sort of like more like dirt road, which I think would be like a really nice or a much nicer way to run a marathon.
Yeah, it does look like that, doesn't it?
Road. When did you register for the 100 kilometres at UTA?
Initially, I registered for the 50K in September last year, and I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to do something. I had initially said that I was going to do the 22 with one of my friends, and then on registration day, I just went with my gut feeling and thought, well, I'll get my 50K and then I can upgrade or downgrade. You know, I can alter my registration as I please, depending on how I feel after Oscars. So I bought my 50K, and then I knew probably from maybe December or January that I was going to do the 100K at UTA, but I just kept that to myself for a few weeks because I just wanted to see how I was going to feel after doing the Oscars hut to hut. So then I did Oscars. I didn't die. So then, and I felt okay once I started running again. I didn't feel wonderful, but I felt okay, and I thought, well, give it 12 weeks, I'll be up to doing this again. So I altered my registration, and I swapped my 50K rego for another lady's 100K rego, and so I got my 100K registration for the bargain basement price of my 50K plus the 2 transfer fees, so another $60. So I think I might have saved myself $50, which is no small thing, I guess. It was, at least that would have gone part way to funding my fueling for the run. Yeah. So it was probably I had decided around January that I was going to do it.
But in reality, it was probably like there was more than 12 weeks of training because there was all of the Oscars training.
It was. That. Yeah, it absolutely was more than 12 weeks. And look, I wouldn't necessarily recommend to everybody to piggyback 2 races onto one training cycle. It comes with its risks, like big risks that you could injure yourself and fall in a massive heap. Luckily, that didn't happen, but it's so kind of the same thing that I did last year for the 50K at the Australian Alpine Ascent run at Kosciuszko, and then 12 weeks later I did UTA 50. So I had an inkling of how it would feel in those 12 weeks, and I also had a pretty good understanding of how much rest I would need after the second race. So I spent 4 or 5 months building for training for Oscars, specifically on a training cycle for Oscars, and then I had a few weeks of rest and recovery running, and then straight into training for UTA. So it was a very quick build. 4 weeks after Oscars, I was back doing a 3-hour long run on a Sunday, and 50-kilometre weeks. So it was pretty, but I was very sort of conservative with my recovery after Oscars. So knowing that I would need to rest up, ahead of going straight into another training cycle.
And with, because I think that a lot of people sort of like look at 100 kilometres or 50 kilometres, and seems just such an like out of
it's a long way
conception of like how you would do something like that. So how did you get started with trail running? Like, what was your first?
My first trail run was the Southern Highlands Challenge at Wingelow Forest. I was about 45 minutes down the road, and it was a 19k trail run, and they've actually resurrected that trail run under a different name. They're calling it the Wingelow Trail Festival, the WTF, this year, and I wanted something. I had not long learned to 6 months past finishing Learn to Run, and I was struggling to maintain some motivation to run through winter. So I thought, what better way than to get a running plan and train for an event. They had a 7-kilometre run, which I thought about for probably about 10 minutes, and I decided that a 45-minute drive down the road was worth more than a 7-kilometre run. So the next distance up was the 18k. And so that was my first trail run. So I did mostly road running to train for that, with a little bit of fire trail training in Canberra. But it was a very tentative step towards trail running. And I managed, so that was in the end of August of 2015. So it was actually, the race fell the day before my 1-year anniversary of starting Learn to Run, which I felt that was the only reason I chose that trail run, to be honest, because it fell on my anniversary, and I thought that was a wonderful way to celebrate. So that was how I first got into it, and it just escalated rather quickly from there. But I was still sort of periodically I was still running on the road. I still happily running on the road, and I still happily run on the road, but I was still, if I was training for a road event, I would run all my runs on the road. But when I was training for a trail run, I would make an effort to get my long runs done on a trail, or some of my runs, at least one run each week on a trail. Yeah. So, yeah.
And what would you say for people who are wanting to get into trail running? Are there any things that they need to start off with? Like, did you have to buy more things?
You always have to buy more things. Let's be honest. No, to be honest, you really don't have to. You can just, most trails you can get away with road shoes, unless it's muddy, in which case you really do benefit from having trail shoes, as I've found out on a couple of occasions. Otherwise you end up slipping all over the place, and you can hurt not only your ankles and your knees, but also your back and whatever else. But you need a trail, and it doesn't really matter what sort of trail. Fire trail around a local hill, or some, it depends on where you live, I guess, how accessible trails are. But most people in big cities have got some greenery around, and some local trails suburban trails that you can get onto. There are often beginner trail run events that are held, sort of trail run workshops that are held for people who are curious but perhaps not confident enough to go by themselves. And also there's some events that most events offer distances that start at your 5K or your 7K, and they go right up to the ultra distances. So you can sort of piggyback onto an organised event that's got course markings and aid stations and marshals and sweeps and things like that, and all the security blankets, I guess, that mean that you're not going to get lost, you're not going to die of thirst, and if you fall over and hurt yourself, that somebody will be there to assist you. So you can often, piggyback onto a trail series that offers a shorter run distance. And like any kind of running, road running, trail running, you'll find that there's a huge variety of people who are standing on that start line ready to go for a run. So don't feel that you don't look the part. It's everybody's there just to get out in amongst the trees or, in the mountains and go run in nature. So nobody's really worried about what you look like or,
And often a lot of hikers as well.
Yeah.
Hikers who can definitely hike faster than I can run on a trail.
They can move at a wicked pace. Absolutely. Yep. And I guess with trail running, it's, there's the old, there's the saying that goes that you hike the hills and you run the rest. You run the downs and you run the flats. So there's no pressure to be able to run up, to be able to run up a hill if you don't want to or you're not able to. That's not a problem. You'll find that most people will hit a much more efficient hike going up an incline than try and run it. It conserve their energy for later when they can really stretch out on some nice single track. So yeah, I think there's a lovely Facebook group which does have lots of support and people from all over the country. The Trail and Ultra Runners, Trail and Ultra Running Australia is the Facebook group. So it's not just for ultra runners, it's for anybody who gets into trail running, and there's lots of beginners who come and ask for advice on that page, and everybody is more than happy to welcome more people into the fold.
And there's
religion.
Usually, local trail running groups, like there's one that we have that's near the Gold Coast, where they have organised runs at set times that new people can go to, so that
and there's usually a long distance. A long distance and a short distance. We have some in Canberra as well. There isn't really one in Goulburn. We're a little bit small for that, but but certainly there's a great group in Canberra and a pretty decent trail running scene in Canberra. But and I know Melbourne has a lot of trail running groups, and it's they're very, very easy to find. I think once you just you Google or search on Facebook for a trail running group in your particular area, you won't struggle to find somebody who's happy to give you an intro. And I think most people are pretty happy to share their passion with other people, aren't they? Runners, doesn't matter whether you run road or run trail, people are always happy to share their love of running with
people always want more runners. So
we always want more people standing at the Kool-Aid, don't we? we need more people to buy the shoes.
Transition to make, going from the road where you obviously spent a lot of time, like we've learned to run with walking less and less, to making that transition to hiking and running.
Absolutely, yeah. And I remember you saying a while ago that for you, you enjoyed running more than you enjoyed hiking. So that road running was always sort of a bit of a given that and so that was a really it is a struggle, because you think as a runner that if you can run X amount of kilometres, minutes per kilometre pace on the road, to think that then you have to you're running up a hill and all of a sudden you're hiking instead of running, and there goes your average pace. And instead of being able to run 10k in 60 minutes, you're running 8k, 7k, 6k in 50 minutes, in 60 minutes, or even less. So it is a transition, but it's also I guess it's a little bit of an acknowledgement of where you are, what the terrain is, what the terrain is, and how to respect that you have to respect that you're trying not to, you don't want to sort of be fighting fighting the elevation and sort of forcing it. It's more of it's more about trying to create a bit of a flow to the run. So you change your pace in line with the terrain and the technicality and things. So it's sort of, at first there was a lot of stop-start, there's a lot of looking up at that hill and rolling your eyes and things like that. But and it can be really frustrating, but I think if it's something that you enjoy, you sort of push past that. And I think now I've stopped worrying about how far I can go in a set amount of time, and I'm much happier to just aim for a certain amount of time to be out there, especially for long runs, that you might go for a 45-minute easy run and, on a bit of road that might be 7K run, but on a trail that could be 5 kilometres.
Yeah.
And you've huffed and puffed, that's you've actually worked just as hard as if you were running 7 kilometres on a road. So it's, if not harder. It's kind of it was difficult in that you have to sort of shelve the ego, I guess. Yeah, when it comes to trail running. Have you got a
lawn mowers have shown up at exactly the wrong time? It's like so noisy. We'll just hope for the best.
We'll just work around it. That's okay. It comes and it goes. So it'll be fine. Yeah, but I think as far as transition, it's more about shelving the ego, and just you run trails. I guess you run trails for a reason. You run trails to be out and amongst nature and in the trees. And to get away from the cars and the lawnmowers and the distractions and all the other people. So I guess you've got to come back to why you're out there in the first place.
It like even this morning, like I get to probably like the second half of my run, because like I probably start at like 5-ish this morning, and I get to the second half of my run and I start getting annoyed because I'm like, people, so many people, so many people walking dogs. It's just like, and I think though when I've run trail, almost more than the uphills, I found the downhills. I was like, the downhills would take a lot of practice. Depends on them, obviously. Like, but I remember looking they had like at Nerang, where I was doing trail run at the Gold Coast, there was somewhere I was like at the top, and I'm like, I don't know how to get down. Like,
and it's a big block for a lot of people, and it's it's certainly not one of my strengths, running downhill, but I'm slowly getting better at it, and it's a matter of practicing it and practicing your technique. And I think lots of people think that the downhill is a break, and actually it's probably more taxing on your body, and you're more likely to injure yourself if you've got poor technique, because of the amount of brake force that your body is, as you're heading downhill. If your technique's poor, then you will be actually doing more damage to your knees and your feet than what you are if you were hiking uphill. And I sort of, when and even hiking, it's a technique. It's a thing that you have to practice, and the only way that you get better at it is to practice it more. But there was, even at UTA the other week, there was a lot of people who were I had thought that I was pretty average at the downhills, but I was overtaking people who were stepping off the trail to let me and other people go past. I mean, I was doing that for other faster people as well. Obviously there's etiquette, but it's I caught up with one girl, and she was hiking at a cracking pace, and she said, I've got to make up some time. She said, I just got so stuck on that downhill there. She said it was just her terror. She couldn't, she couldn't move fast down that hill because she was terrified she was going to fall flat on her face or on her ass or something. It was pretty slippery and it was really dry. So it was, there was a lot of slipping and sliding around and there was a lot of dust. But when you look at how fast she was able to move on a flat and on a hill going up compared to how stuck she got coming down, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses, absolutely. And she recognised that was hers, and she was. But yeah, it was. In time, it comes. You just got to practice. Even more so, I think, than the hiking the uphills. You've got to practice the downhills.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you have that weird, people can have that weird thing that there's, if you get say a 1 kilometre PB or something like that, and you're like, oh, but it doesn't count because it was going downhill.
No, that totally counts.
It totally counts.
Totally counts.
And and so people sort of don't respect running downhill as much as running uphill, and then they don't sort of practice it as much, and so therefore quad's just less prepared for the assault.
Absolutely. And I'm riding, doing a if I was doing a training plan for a trail run, then that you've got looking at the run that Peter's planning to do in August, the Thunderbolt, and she's got it's an out and back, and there's a fair hike up a hill that's going to take her a fair while. It's 5 or 6 kilometres or something, and but do you know what? She's actually going to need to practice running downhill more than she needs to practice hiking up a hill, because she's going to have really tired legs by the time she gets to the top, and she's going to want to run down that hill as best she can and not be completely smashed. So when she gets to the end of it, so there's going to be a fair bit of running downhill coming your way, Peter. Practice, but it's really important, and it's even when you're doing it though, it's hard to come to terms with the fact that it's valid practice, because you're hiking up a hill to turn around and run down it. You're not working up a high heart rate to get up to the top of your hill, and to maintain an elevated heart rate when you're running down a hill is, you have to be running pretty fast. Yeah. So, the workout might feel easy, but it's certainly not easy on your body, on your joints and on your knees and things like that. And so it's, there's certain skill. And you look at, if you get onto YouTube and Google downhill running, trail running, and you see how the elite trail runners move heading downhill, and it is a thing of beauty. It really is, they dance down those hills. But they must also have no fear of falling flat on their faces as they're screaming down these hills, because that is my number one terror, that I'm going to fall and I'm going to smack my head on something. I'm going to end up 10 metres further down the hill in a matter of seconds. My theory was
always if my feet keep moving, then I can't fall. That's what I used to tell myself at the top. If they keep moving, you're not going to fall. Yeah. But it's hard when it's particularly when it's dry and it's pretty slippery, and things that look secure aren't necessarily as secure as you might have thought.
And also it's you can't trust anything that you put your foot on as well, but necessarily. But it's all about technique, and it's something that I practice every time I'm running downhill. Keep your steps small, same as running uphill. Engage your glutes. You've got to keep your glutes engaged to free your legs up to be able to take quick steps and engage your core. And you put your arms out to the side to use your balance like you're on a tightrope. And you lead with you look with your eyes to look where you're going, and the rest of your body will follow. So if you have to turn a corner, you look where you need to go, and your body will sort of naturally start to head in that direction. So there's a few little tips and tricks, and you can go to workshops and things to try and improve your downhill running skills. When Beck and Joe and I were in Chamonix, and we went on a trail run when we first got to Chamonix, and we hiked up this hill to this beautiful chalet and turned around and ran back, and very soon Joe was 100 metres, 200 metres in front of me, and I thought I'd managed to hold my own running down that hill. And we sort of, later that day, she was like, yeah, that was, I took that descent pretty easy. I know I could have gone faster. And I'm thinking, I was doing my damnedest to try and catch up to you. It's all a matter of practice, and you can't expect to be, good at it without practicing it. So, yeah. But it's one of the skills to trail running, for sure.
And when did you start using poles? Because I know that a lot of people have questions about poles for trail runs.
Yeah, poles, affectionately known as wizard sticks. Some people like to call them cheat sticks, but if they were cheat sticks, we wouldn't be allowed to use them. So I like to refer to them as my wizard sticks. But when did I think I bought some on sale when Mountain Designs was shutting down. When was that? Probably about 18 months ago, I think. And I bought some in preparation for using them at UTA 50 last year, which funnily enough I didn't take them for. So I think the first time I definitely had them in January last year, because I used them for a trail run in January last year, just a half marathon distance, but I wanted to give them a try. And now, there's something that I feel more comfortable using now. The more you use them, the more comfortable you get using them. And there's techniques around using them properly. But yeah, they're an awesome. I don't know how people manage without them now that I've got them. I do feel a little bit silly using them around the easier trail runs in Canberra, like when I'm trying to practice my technique, or I've got them in my pack for a long run, because I'm taking all my gear with me. So I feel a little bit self-conscious using them, but people can think whatever they like, can't they?
I feel that way about doing, I always do running drills before, a workout run, and it's sort of it's about 12 different things. So it's there's arm circles, there's some high kicks to get the hamstrings, there's your high knee and some skipping and some side shuffles, and I try to go somewhere that's so I'm not at least on the main road. And I was but every now and then somebody will see me and I'm this is a thing that I'm doing.
This is a thing that I do, yes.
But it's just one of those things where this is worth it. It's okay if I'm embarrassed.
Yeah, it's okay, and that's right. And when I did my last long hike for Oscars, and I did a 40k hike through Canberra, and it was all very gentle, undulating sort of fire track. And because I had my big pack out and I wasn't running, and it was all just a hike, I had my poles with me, and I was using them because I was planning to use them for all of Oscars. So I wanted to know how my body was going to feel after using them for 40k, so I'm just walking along these fire trails, well-groomed fire trails that are just undulating around the base of of one of the nature reserves, and I felt like a real deal. But it doesn't matter. Nobody else needs to know that the people who walk past me, it's none of my business what they think about me. So it was all just just happily walking along, thinking to myself, I must look like a right tool, but whatever. I've also got a sleeping bag in my pack, and there's a house 50 metres away, and so it's all in the name of training and being as well prepared as you can be for your event. But and And you need to get used to how they feel. You need to get used to how it feels to carry them and what's the most comfortable part of your pack to carry them and things like that. And you know what? The only way you're going to figure that sort of stuff out is if you use them and take them with you. So, you know, no point on the night before race day trying to figure out where your poles belong on your brand new pack before you do 100K. Wasn't me. It must have been somebody else. So, so yeah, it was. There was some last minute Googling or YouTubing and things to find out where exactly on my brand new pack I was going to put my poles while I wasn't allowed to use them. So, but yeah, and most trail runs will stipulate if you're not allowed to use them, if they're welcome, if they're not welcome. Some really technical trails that have got really narrow single track they're not allowed. You know, you're not allowed to use poles in the first 12 kilometres or something of UTA 50. You know, it's too dangerous. So you're not allowed to use them up until a certain point. And you know, so it's sort of But they're a handy thing to have, even if you're hiking. They're a handy thing to have. They conserve a lot of energy. And you know you've engaged your upper body, and the next day your shoulders and your arms and your chest are sore from using your poles, and it just, you know, prolongs the life of your legs, I think.
Yeah, which you might need later on.
Certainly a benefit.
So
absolutely.
What has the transition been like going from 50K to 100? Has there been sort of like a big difference in terms of training?
Not really, to be honest. No, I think probably my weekly, my base kilometre volume has probably increased a little bit. So a base week when I'm in a training cycle for the 50K or the 100K, you know, it might be an extra 10 kilometres a week, but it's not a huge increase. The biggest difference you notice is probably when you're looking at your long run, when you're coming towards those couple of peak weeks of long run, when you might, instead of spending 3 or 4 hours on a long run for a 50K, you might, or, you know, I think my longest for 50K last year was a 5-hour long run in preparation for a 9-hour effort, 8 or 9 hour effort. So, but that was you know, you're talking for over 5 hours, you're talking 30 kilometres, you know. So it's more about the amount of time on feet rather than the kilometres that you're going to cover. And so ideally, I guess for a 100K, you would be looking at a 40 to 50K long run. And I guess that comes down to just how long it takes you to cover that distance on trails. So that could be a 6 to 9 hour long run. Because of the way that I piggybacked UTA onto the training that I did for Oscars, I didn't really have enough time to build quickly into a full long run. So I did 2 weeks of sort of a 5-hour run each week. So if you looked at it in a 7-day period, my volume was, I think, in that my last big week. It wasn't sort of a Monday to Sunday kind of a period, but it was Friday to Thursday kind of thing, or a Saturday to Friday, and it worked out to be an 80-kilometre week, which is decent for me, given that there was also there would have been 1,500 to 2,000 metres of elevation in that week, or what did I do? I think I did 2.5K of elevation as well, which is not huge, but it's it certainly counts.
Yeah.
So I think you can my I think that if you you train for the time that you've got available to train, and if you've got availability to train 100K a week and your body responds well to it, that's awesome. That's great. That's terrific. And if you've got access to loads of trails and you can run trails every day for your runs, that's fantastic. But I've got 4 kids and I work, and my husband works and travels and all that sort of stuff. So for me, a lower volume plan is what I can manage, and my body is pretty happy with that, and I don't get injured. So an average of 40 to 50 kilometres a week running works okay for me. Keeping in mind that my goals are to finish and to enjoy myself while I'm out there. I don't want to be doing it and hating it while I'm out there. So that's probably that's probably on the lower side of kilometres that you would want to do per week to train for that kind of run.
Given your elevation, how many hours would that be?
I'm just trying to think. 6 to 7, probably 7 hours of training a week on average. So it's 5 runs a week, and so I'm just trying to think back that I think my longest, as far as time on feet, my longest week would have been, maybe 9 hours of running in a week. So, and predominantly, 5 hours of that would have been my long run. Yeah. So, for me, it was also a matter of, and I guess this is the thing to remember, isn't it, that your training plan is developed for you, my training plan is developed for me, and that person over there who's running the same race as me, she's got a completely different training plan to what looks like for me. And it's really important, and I struggle with this myself and the people that I talk to about my training, it's still look at what they're doing, because it's all on Strava. Look at what they're, and Instagram, look at what they're doing and look at what I'm doing, and am I doing enough? Or, and it's rarely a thought of, are they doing too much? It's always a matter of, am I doing enough? And there's, and so it is a matter of reminding yourself that you have a coach for a reason, and that they know what they're talking about, and that, this is the plan that has been written for you with your goals in mind, and that Buggerlugs over there has been, she or he's had a plan written for them, and with their goals in mind, and with their running volume and their experience, in mind as well.
There are so many things that go into it. Like, it's not just like, can you do this long run? But like for us, it's like, can you do this long run and then come home and
function as an adult
for kids, and do all of the stuff that you need to do? Like, can you go to work the next day? Can you like all of that kind of stuff? Like, you don't have the option of sort of, like, you can look at sort of like people who are elite, their schedules or whatever, but the reality is they're working out in the morning, they're coming home, they're
sleeping,
a nap, they maybe have an ice bath. Less fun part. I like the nap part better than the ice bath part.
It doesn't sound fun.
Chances are if they've got a partner, they've got somebody who's cooking for them, or if they're single, they're having like a meal service of some kind. Certainly the vast majority not having any kids to deal with. No one's asking them for more yogurt and raspberries.
I know. Oh, always. and nobody, and coming into, being able to sleep and repair and recover and all that sort of stuff as well. There is nights where, I get my 8 hours sleep on prescription. That's it. That's fantastic. And I wake up and I feel $1,000,000. There's other nights where I'd be lucky to get 4 hours sleep, and I've still got to go to work in the morning, and I've still got to function, and I've got to cook tea for children, and, I've still got to do all that stuff. So, what is the level that you can cope with and still maintain your life a functional level, you know, that you're not going to be trying to drag yourself around the kitchen making dinner for the children or for yourself or your partner or whatever, or, you know, doing the chores
5 nights a week.
Like 4 nights is totally acceptable.
Fine.
It's balanced. So, and for my last long run, my instructions were that instead of doing an 8-hour long run, that I was to do a 4 or 5 hour run, and then I was to stay on my feet for the remainder of that time. So it was not hard really. There was when you've got 4 kids, it's pretty. There was no hiding at my parents' place, trying to pretending to do jobs. It was just and sitting on the couch having coffee made for me and things like that. It was get back straight in, have a shower, straight in the car, drive home, and then make dinner and do some cooking for the kids. And I just made sure that I stayed on my feet for 3 hours solid. And I think this is the benefit of having a running community around and have friends who are doing similar stuff to what you're doing, is people to remind you that the long run is, as far as your running week is concerned, it's probably when you're training for longer distances and half marathon and up, probably that the long run is the cornerstone of your running week. You want to go into your long run feeling fresh and you don't want to be too fatigued from the previous day's running or the previous week's running, and you also want to make sure that you recover nicely from it. But it's not just about the long run, it's not just about your running. It's also about all the other things that you do in your life. Do you have a physical job? Do you have a job where you can work from home, or do you have a job that requires you to be on your feet all day, to be switched on mentally? The last thing that I want when I go to work is to be absolutely shattered from a 7-hour long run the day before, it's or that morning or something. It's really hard to think critically when you're so concerned about how tired your legs are, or how hungry you might be, or
I was going to say how hungry.
You're really hungry. So there's lots of, but it doesn't actually. I think I was probably running more kilometres when I was training for a marathon. To be honest, I was maxing out at sort of mid 60 kilometre per week. Last time I trained for a marathon, and I don't think I've run 60 kilometres in a week, for nearly 2 years. So
the time's probably not dissimilar.
No, absolutely. By the time you translate with elevation and all the rest of it, that probably time on feet is roughly the same. But but I think rather than focusing on how much running you do for these kind of distances, how much running training you do, it's really important to also think about the other sort of training that you do in combination with your running. Like you have to train, you have to cross train, you have to strength train. You cannot, I don't think you can get through those sort of distance runs on a regular basis without doing some form of strength training, because your body will you'll end up injured. I think, you'll get an overuse injury. And let's face it, you can get an overuse injury by doing something for 100 kilometres, can't you? Like doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a biomechanics injury.
Yeah. It's like anything with a highly repetitive motion, like baseball pitches, like throwing
shoulder issues,
shoulder, like anything,
swimmers.
Like it's just any time there's that level of repetition, like even I notice yesterday, like after having been for a run, that my legs felt, and I had some squats and deadlifts to do in the afternoon, and I felt so much better afterwards. Just from that sort of like that different level of movement. The first squat did not feel great.
No, they never do.
I was like, oh God. Because we'd done pause front squats at the gym in the morning.
Ouch.
And so done that, and then I went into I think it was like sort of 5 sets of 10 back squats, like 30 kilos, which is about 50% of my like max. So it doesn't exactly it feels kind of moderate for like 10 reps. But like I did the first one, I was like, oh God, I got the weights wrong. I'm like, no, it's heavy today.
But as you warm up, it gets easier. It's a little bit like running, isn't it? That the first couple of kilometres always feel like crap, and then you warm up and your body remembers that it knows what to do. But yeah, I think, and I think people make the mistake of when they want to run longer that they add in more running, and they really should be taking a run out and adding in strength and not the opposite. And I think that's, it's like CrossFitters hate running and runners hate strength. As that's like it seems to be the unwritten rule. It's very rare I think it's rare to find people who enjoy doing both, but funnily enough, they both make you feel pretty awesome. So it's sort of, you do a hard workout run and it's the same. You get the same feeling from getting a new PB and your deadlift at the gym. You feel like you're on top of the world. It's the same. You get the same kind of high. You're just going about it a different way. But yeah, I think I can't emphasize enough how much strength training has helped me transition to trail running. Yeah. And actually doing runners like specific strength training over the last 12 months has made a huge difference to my just to how well my body held up. When you compare UTA 50 from last year to the 100 this year, there's only an extra 2,000. And I say only in inverted commas, there's only an extra 2,000 stairs in the 100K to the 50K. The 50K has nearly 9,000 stairs, and the 100K has like 10,300 or something. Like it's not much more, really. When you think about doubling the distance, it's not that much more. But, obviously in the 50, there's a higher intensity, I guess, whereas with the 50 it's the back half of the race. You're not going to be moving with the same intensity that you would be moving in the first half of the race, or if it was or if 50K was going to be your stopping point. So absolutely I wasn't moving as fast, but you know what, my legs held up so much better. Considering that I was going at most of those stairs, I was going at them with 50 kilometres, nearly 60 kilometres already under my belt, already in my legs, that it was, they were holding up pretty well. And I would attribute all of that to the strength training that I've been doing, the single leg strength training and stability that I've been doing over the last 12 months. For sure.
Yeah.
Hands down.
It does make a huge difference. Like I even noticed when I finished the half, normally it would be pretty, like I'd feel pretty, like after sort of like going as fast as I could for that distance. Ordinarily I'd be like pretty fatigued. Just, muscles fatigued and everything like that, but had something to eat. I felt pretty good.
You looked pretty good.
It was like unfortunate that I had to sort of like travel that day, so like it was a long day to get home. But like the next day, like I felt fine. Like I took 3 days off running. But really, like I didn't feel anywhere near like the kind of sort of that sort of like muscular kind of breakdown that you can get like after a really big effort. And what tends to happen when I get fatigued, which we've been sort of working on like with the rehab for quite a while now, is like I'll start to feel like my hamstrings will start to sort of like fatigue in the back end of things. I just sort of start to tighten up a bit. And that happened like maybe in the last kilometre. I could just start to feel one of the hamstrings sort of tightening up a bit. But it does doesn't, you know, and it's sort of interesting how it's like such a dichotomy, because you like from like really short distance, like obviously like sprinters are probably spending, you know, like 4 days a week in the gym anyway. But it doesn't really, it goes like you're doing different stuff, but it doesn't really change, like whether it's sort of sprinting or middle distance or cross country, or, you know, you're going more into half marathon and ultras. Everyone who is performing well and managing their body well is doing strength training.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
And, you know, like I think that you can get into a point where people like chase that feeling that they have like after a hard run or like an intense, you know, like cardio thing, and they want to feel like that, and they don't feel that during strength training. And so it's sort of like, it's like an addict not getting it.
Yes, absolutely. You're chasing that high, and you know what, those high, you've sort of got to you've got to learn to part of it, I think, is learning to manage how you chase that. You know, that you get that from certain runs, you might get it to a less degree from your easy runs, but you do some hill sprints and you feel like, you know, queen of everything. You punch out an awesome long run, and, you know, once you sort of get past the fatigue and the food, you got all the eating, you know, you can walk around and you just feel like you've smashed something out. That's awesome. So it's, but even, you know, you can get it. And I think the problem that a lot of people have is what constitutes strength training. So, you know, it's not cross training. Cross training is something very different. Cross training is doing something that's going to, you know, cross training for running would be cycling and swimming or rowing. You know, they're cross training, exercises. So strength training is actually lifting heavy things and building your musculature, and it's you'll probably get a bit, you know, huffy and puffy, and you do work aerobically as well, but predominantly you are lifting heavy things and then you're putting them back down again, and you're just repeating that,
and you're just having a rest,
and then you have a rest.
You know, like generally speaking, you know, whether your sets are, you know, like 12 or 5 or 3 or whatever it is, then depending on like how hard that was, you'll be then resting for in between like 1 to 3 minutes. So I think some of it is just changing your mindset around it. Like I sort of, when I like to get myself into it, that's why I joined like CrossFit Gym originally, because I was like, I know I struggle with this, I know I need to do it, but I need a structure. And now it can be quite like a social thing. Like I go, there's always the same people in the 5 a.m. class.
Yeah, and the shared suffering thing is, you know.
And so it's sort of easier to do it on my own. But like I go into the garage, I get sort of like my podcast happening, and, you know, just sort of like hang out in there and do my thing. And, you know, and even like now I've got the mirror in there to make sure that I stay,
that your form's good,
really square, which is my thing. Like I can have a hip compensation, so I'm looking for that, and you can kind of motivate yourself with that. Like, I am looking so square today.
I know, right? Look at my form. Look at my back. Look how deep I'm getting my ass to the grass. Like, this is, you know, you can, and you don't, like, I get my my PT will sometimes video me, so she can show me a video of my squat when I first started working with her about 12 months ago compared to what it is now. And, you know, there's like they are worlds apart. And I had been doing CrossFit for 2 years, but when I started working with her one-on-one, and it's and I think to have that feedback, while you're not there to check out how well you've matched your active wear, like that's cool too, but you're there to make sure that you've got that you have got that you've got good form as well, and that you're symmetrical in your movements. So it's, and I think the question came up the other day: how often should you be doing strength? And I think I've found that since I've only been doing it once a week, it's not enough. It's not enough to see any kind of improvements. So it's you're looking at least twice a week, preferably 2 to 3 times a week, to be able to get a benefit and see actual gains.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about muscle gains. Like, I'm not talking about check out my guns. I'm talking about building strength.
You can build strength without making your muscles bigger.
Absolutely,
making your muscles bigger is a particular strategy with strength training, but you can build strength without actually getting bigger, which I think is often a misconception. With that, that to get stronger, you actually have to get bigger, which is not necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't mind.
It takes effort to get bigger.
I wouldn't mind bigger muscles, because I think they might fill out some of the baby loose skin.
Yes,
just get more muscle there, maybe. But and I think it is a really challenging area, because there are so many things that are sort of promoted as strength training which are not. All of those high intensity interval training that you get in all of those online program, not strength training.
Yeah.
All of that sort of like body pump, all of that high repetition stuff is also not strength training. It's, it's cardio with weights, and that kind of quote cardio is going to do a better job of sort of conditioning without necessarily losing strength, which can happen sometimes if you have a lot more endurance than strength, but it's not strength training. So the vast majority of the group classes that you see advertised at gyms are not strength training, because it is all about elevating your heart rate.
Yeah.
And even with CrossFit gyms, that will vary. So with mine, generally they'll have a strength component at the beginning, and then a conditioning component afterwards. So when I went this week, we had 5 minutes to build up to a heavy set of 2 front squats, and then 5 minutes to build up to a heavy set of 1. It was a hang squat clean, which is basically just going from the knees and then dropping down into the bottom of the squat and then standing back up. So that is strength training.
Yeah,
because we're
the other stuff is great. The
resting, and then afterwards, what was this? 3 rounds of 15 squat cleans, 15 burpees, not strength training. Now I'm conditioning, and it was hard. And I was sweating at the end, and jumping and burpees and everything like that. But depending on your CrossFit gyms vary greatly, so you would just need to sort of check in with what you're doing, if that's going to work for you. And so a lot of the times, because I do so much conditioning with running, I'll say to them, okay, cool, I want to make this less conditioning, more strength. So I'm going to do less repetitions, more rest, heavier weight. And they'll sort of let me know what days are good strength days to come to, because sometimes it's an exclusive strength day.
Yeah, and sometimes it's exclusively Metcon stuff. It's all cardio and conditioning.
Yeah, and which, I tend to avoid, because which is originally that was a hard transition to make, because I'm good at those days. because I've got plenty of endurance. But it's sort of like, it's not really serving me. It's just taking away from having that energy for runs, and it's not making me any stronger. So, you know, like the strength part is a huge component. I think that, especially with trail running, because with that amount of elevation and your body having to be prepared for, you know, that much stability with like where your feet are being placed. But even for, you know, like road running, like the stronger you are, the faster you are.
Absolutely.
It's just like, it's even they're sort of able to pretty much, like, there's a very strong correlation between like how fast you are and what you can deadlift, because it's just, you know, like, so you have anyone who's like a super fast runner can probably deadlift like 2.5 times their body weight. You know, so yeah, like it's that's been a huge thing. So when you started strength training, did you have to cut back on any runs to be able to squeeze that in?
Initially, no. When I first started going to CrossFit, I didn't. I was running 4 days a week, and I was going to the gym twice a week and during the CrossFit classes. And then when was it the beginning of last year, I had built up to 5 runs a week, and I was doing the gym twice a week. And then in preparation for the 50K, I cut back. It was probably around just after Melbourne Marathon in 2017. I cut back to 4 runs a week and increased my gym to 3 days a week, because I couldn't do 5 plus 3, you know, if I had to give. So I made the decision that I wanted to focus on my strengths. You know, I needed no encouragement to get out and go for a run, but I needed a lot of encouragement to get into the gym and lift stuff. You know, I love it when I'm there. I just struggle to find that intrinsic motivation to make myself do it by myself. So, and that's, I'm working on that. So it was a matter of, while I built up my strength training, I reduced my runs to 4 days a week and 3 days a week of CrossFit. And then middle of last year, I started doing a one-on-one PT class. So I changed the mix again, because I was I felt like I wasn't seeing the gains in the gym that I wanted to see. So I changed back to 1 day of PT and 1 day in the gym, and actually having that one-on-one attention made a huge difference to my technique and my control and my engagement of my muscles and my glutes and things like that. So, and I went with the PT to get some specificity, to get that running specific training that I felt, while the CrossFit stuff was great and it was fun and it was, you know, the whole shared experience, it's social, it's let's all get through this horrible workout together kind of scenario, it was there was a lot of it that, you know, you're talking about the metabolic conditioning stuff that I found that I would rather be running than doing burpees. And so I you know, I limited time, limited energy, limited money to do these things. So I sort of decided to head down the road of a little bit more specific training. So I was still going sort of 2 to 3 times a week. And then towards the end of last year, things sort of started to pile up and I ran out of puff, and, you know, life got in the way a little bit. But I had, by that stage, I was back up to 5 runs a week. So, I'm still trying to find the balance. But at the moment, I love running. You know, 4 times a week running is not enough. it's not enough. So 5 days seems to be a pretty happy place for me. And then I, can do a couple of double up days there. But what I've sort of been asking myself, why I struggle. Why do I struggle to make myself go out in the gym and throw some things around? Because, we've got a barbell, we've got kettlebells, we've got a, squat rack thing. Joanne's built a contraption in the shed to put the barbell on so that I can, I can put some weights on and I can do squats and things like that. That's fine. I don't have to be able to lift something from the ground to be able to, and get it up, to get it up onto my chest to do squats and things. I can put it on the rack. So, so I have been, I've been sort of thinking about why I, what is it that stops me from getting out there and, and coming back to the conversation of we do things we don't want to do all the time. So what makes this any different? I don't want to wash the dishes, but I have to. I don't really like cooking dinner all the time for the kids when they complain about what it is that you've served up. Don't really like doing housework, but I do that sometimes. So, what is it that, I don't struggle for, like I said, I don't struggle for motivation to go out and go for a run. I don't need to be talked into that at all. So it's time to try and apply that to strength training at home. And I'm going to, because I want to get stronger and I want it to feel easier. I don't want it to take so much out of me. So, and once a week is not enough. So it's time to put my big girl pants on. And I'm going to show myself that I can do it, that I don't have to have somebody telling me what to do, watching every move and providing, a commentary or distraction via conversation. I don't have to have that. I don't have to have somebody holding my hand to do it. I can do it by myself. So, it's sort of, when you run 100K, there's a lot of time to think about these things and what my avoidance is based on and, all that sort of stuff. And, it's, I think it's...
I think some of it is that it's like, it is like the reward associated with it is really long term, which our brains don't like. Don't get that kind of, that nice buzz, like runner's high that you get at the end of a run that you're like now conditioned, like Pavlov's dog, to go out and get. And so it's sort of like once your brain sees that something is like a long-term thing, it's like, well, do we want to be motivated for that then? Because we're not really, there's no sort of immediate gratification happening there. So it's one of those things that probably, like, I'm probably better with the strength training now, but probably I think for me, like, the rehab one is the one that's hardest to get going for, because it's exactly the same every week. So the strength thing, like whether I'm using the program that a PT wrote for me or I'm using like an app, it progresses. So it's like this week lift this with these sets, and then next week it's going to be different. And you can kind of like tick off things that as you go, and then that's kind of like nice. I like ticking off things, so that works well. But the rehab is more about maintenance, so it never changes. And so like kind of like it's probably more about like noticing like how the process impacts on things. Like I'll be on a run and I'll go, oh, I don't feel like my foot contact is great here, and I feel like it's aggravating like the lateral like side of my foot, and then kind of like going and doing calf raises and really focusing on it, and then the next day noticing that my feet feel like a lot better and like sort of starting to make those connections. But yeah, like it is one of those things that's sort of it's a bit like, I think too, like going like when you go from nutrition, like if you've been in like a fat loss sort of cycle and you're kind of like motivated by your weight going down or your body fat percentage going down, and then you go into maintenance and you no longer have that motivation, you're like, why the hell am I like counting all of these macros and everything to just like stay the same when you know, like I could just eat, you know, like 5 kilos of chocolate and not track anything.
Exactly. And nobody needs to know. There's no accountability, is there? So, yeah, it's really and I think there's the misconception that, and it goes for running as well, especially when you're starting running, that if I can't do the whole thing, then there's not much point. We sort of forget that every little bit counts. That if you can't go for a half-hour run, a 20-minute run or a 15-minute run, it's still a run.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to go out to the shed and spend an hour doing a full cycle of everything.
Yeah.
If you've got 10 minutes, do 10 minutes. Do a quick warm-up and do 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be intricate and it doesn't have to be complicated. It just has to be.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is that you can give that day. It's like yoga. You can do 5 minutes of, you know, you can do a quick 5-minute flow of yoga. It still counts. You can do an hour class of restorative yoga and it still counts. It doesn't, you don't have to commit to doing a huge amount of time.
Yeah, but also like once you start, you usually finish. Like I'll usually convince myself like, oh, hang on, I've got to do this. I don't really want to, so I'll just go and do like this bit of it. Yeah. So that at least is done, and then once I get going, it's like, well, now I'm here.
Yeah, now
I can do the rest of it. It's fine. So yeah, like it. I think it has a lot more in common with those conversations that you have yourself when you first started running. And it's sort of like I used to have to, like, I'd be in the car going, you can do this. I would just do this. Yeah. And then we don't have to do it for 2 days.
No, that's right. And you only have to do it 10 times. You know, there's only 10 repetitions of this particular thing. And then I can stop and, you know what, if it's hurting or if I'm not feeling it, then I can, you know, I can just walk it out. Or, you know, I still use that technique sometimes when I'm tired and I've been at work and, you know, it's like, oh, I've got an hour run to do. Well, let's just start with the first 5 minutes. Yeah. Let's just get changed. Let's just walk out the door. Let's just go for a walk and then we'll start the watch. You know, it doesn't have to be a commitment to do the full Monty every single time. If going out and spending 15 minutes doing some kettlebell swings and, you know, whatever else out there, you know, it doesn't, it doesn't have to be, and all that hit with weights, the cardio with weight stuff, that's great too. Like that is, it's not bad for you, right? You can stretch the imagination and it all counts. But if you are talking about what is strength training, then that isn't it. No. You know, so, but it still counts, but it's, you know, it's not the same as lifting something that weighs the same amount as what you do. You know, it's a very different, and it's sort of a, you know, there's differing opinions as far as I can see that, you know, some people are very much supporters of low reps, heavy weights for strength training for runners, and other people are, you know, more in the camp of lighter weights, more reps. But I think, you know what, variety is the spice of life. You can do. Yeah,
I mean, it just like they do different different.
They do different things.
But really, like, as long as you're going to technical failure, or like within like a close enough range to technical failure, then it doesn't matter. So for me, I find it easier to do, well, I actually at the moment I do a combination. So it's sort of like works at I'm doing sort of warm up, and then I do sort of like about 5 light reps, 5 kind of moderate reps, and then the bit at the end is more like it's heavy, but it's just whatever I feel like I can do in the day. So one day it might be 1, another day where I'm feeling really good, it could be 10, you know, you don't know. But it just sort of allows for that different way that your body might feel on the day. And then after that, it's sort of like probably about like at a moderate weight, but it's sort of like 5 sets of 10. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
But I tend to think that for most people, like the heavier weight is probably easier from like a time management point of view.
Yeah, you don't have to do so much of it. Yeah,
because like if you could do like German volume training, which is like 10 sets of 10, it's like 100 reps. It's so many. It takes so long. And so I think that you do have to kind of think about like, okay, you know, like how much time do I have, and doing things in probably in, you know, like 3 sets of 8, 5 sets of 5 is probably going to work better for like being efficient with your time. For people who aren't bodybuilders and don't love being in the gym for 2 hours at a time, you know. So yeah, it's but I think you also kind of, you can just try it out and, you know, like figure out what you actually enjoy, because it's going to be different for different people. Like some people are really not gonna like going super heavy, but are really happy with like doing more reps at like a moderately heavy weight and working through that, and just, you know, it just, I think that, but without trying it, and it's a bit like how, you know, like a lot of people who hate running refer to everything cardio as cardio, and you're like, yeah, but it's all different. Like running is running, and cycling is cycling, and swimming is swimming, and rowing is rowing. They're not all the same thing. And the converse is true as well. Like runners can look at strength training as if it's all the same, and people are like, that doesn't make any sense, you know. Like there's high intensity stuff, there's bodybuilding stuff, there's strength stuff, there's hypertrophy stuff, there's just like a gazillion different, you know, you've got like all of your sort of kettlebell and dumbbell stuff, and then you've got like Olympic lifting and, you know, like powerlifting, and there are just so many things, and you know, you might not know what you like because you just haven't like found it yet.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And well, you know, it's the same, isn't it? There's so many different types of running that you know, within that subset, that it's a matter of finding what it is that floats your boat, isn't it? You know, what is it that you enjoy doing? And quite honestly, I guess, you know, that thing that you enjoy doing, you're more likely to do more of it. Yeah. And you know, it's you know, it only really, things only work when you do them. So you can,
so weird how that works.
I know. It's a concept I struggle with, but, you know, it only works if you do it. So, you know what? Find that thing you love and do more of it. Just, you know, and to complement your running. So, and look at it as I think if you look at it as a complement to your running, that I'm doing this to help my running, I'm doing this to make it feel easier, I'm doing this to be able to make my recovery better, and, you know, that bringing it back to what it is that you love, and you know, that's what's worked for me. That was what got me through the front door of the CrossFit gym in the first place. I was doing it for my running. I was trying to injury-proof myself so that I could run more, because all I want to do is run more. That's all. That is my number one goal.
And I think it's also good to look at it from a general health perspective too, in that, like in my family, Alzheimer's definitely runs in the family, and there's one thing that is a protective factor against Alzheimer's, and that's muscle mass. And at my age, it gets harder to build and harder to hang on to, you know. So like the earlier you start, the better. And it's not just for Alzheimer's, it's for, you know, cognitive function and all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, like the number one thing that's going to land you in assisted living is if you can't squat down to the toilet, or you can't reach overhead to get something. And
you can't get up off the floor.
And it seems like really sort of like that's far removed from where you are. But I remember being, when I was 20, there's no way I could have done a squat.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, 100% should have been able to, but I could not.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like easy for you to lose that stuff if it's because our sort of like lifestyles are so much like sitting down and, you know, like computers and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. You're not doing like all of the sort of movement that, you know, like you wouldn't do if you didn't have like a job sitting down, or, you know, like just all of the stuff that sort of happens with like computers and TVs and whatever else, you know. And I agree in that, like I think that like people know that, but that's a really hard thing to motivate yourself to do. Whereas if somebody says this will make you a better runner, they're like, okay, cool, like sign me up.
I'm on board with
like more running, excellent. It's like when they had that ages ago, there was this run less, run faster program.
Oh yeah, right.
I was like, why would you do that?
I know.
Like, I want to run more.
I always want to run more. There's rarely do I get to a point and I think, yeah, I'm done with my running. I'm done. I've had enough of running.
There's more.
No,
so before we go, I think that we wanted to talk about with what does it actually. Well, there's actually a couple of questions. One was when you did Oscars. That was a real shock to the system in terms of the course.
I felt violated.
There was a little bit of trauma associated with that, and you wanted to do another 100 kilometres to prove to yourself that you could do it on your own, but also that they weren't all going to be like that. So how was the experience at UTA coming off Oscars?
It was amazing. It was just incredible. Like I guess leading up to it, there was a little bit of I had to, like, there was a whole lot of, if I can do Oscars, I can do UTA. Like that was my own personal confidence booster.
Yeah.
Because you still need that to have the courage to stand there and start the race in the first place. But there's also a don't underestimate the distance element to it as well. This is still 100 kilometres. This is not going to be a walk in the park. I know what the last 50K is like, and that was far from a tickling competition. And that was like that hard. But I tell you what, I think there was a lot more runnable stuff, lots more runnable stuff in the first 50K of UTA. There was some technical bits, absolutely, but they were done pretty quick. There was, there was lots more people around. So, if you just sped your pace up a little bit or slowed down a little bit, you could probably fall into step with somebody in the first 50K. Not so much in the second 50, but definitely in the first 50. So there was other people to sort of talk to and get to know a little bit better. And I like to talk to people, so I was happy to strike up a conversation with people or fall into step with somebody. And also I know that I move faster when I'm with somebody. Like I will try and match their pace for as long as I can. But there was just so much, I don't know, I want to say there was so much more joy in it. That doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy Oscars. Like, it was an amazing weekend, but it was just, there was a whole lot of hard, like, it was, you just kept thinking, when is this bit going to be over? Whereas with UTA, there was I wonder what's coming next kind of thing. Like I wasn't being, and Oscars is set up to challenge you, to the maximum in more than just the physical way. It is set up to stress you out. That is the whole purpose of the event, and they nail that perfectly as far as I'm concerned. But UTA, there was much there was a lot less of that, and it actually made it a lot more enjoyable. Another part of it that was more enjoyable was the fact that having a crew there to see me at checkpoints, it gives you something to look forward to. To know that you've got somebody who, the difference between Ness and I having to think for ourselves during Oscars the whole time, even when we were tired, compared to me turning up to an aid station and being told what to do. Shut up and eat your sandwich. Which chocolate do you want? Do you want your soda water now? Drink this, change your shirt, go to the toilet. You've got to take this out of your pack. You don't need that for the next 10K. It's not mandatory gear, dump it kind of thing. It's having somebody to look after you and to see friendly faces at the last three major checkpoints was fantastic. It was just, it was, they were like, given that it was dark when I was doing them, I spent more time in the dark than I did in the light. But, they were truly beacons in the night. They were points of light to look forward to. How far are we from the checkpoint? I know I'm going to see my friends here. I know I'm going to have a hot drink, and they're going to look after me for the next 20 minutes. Yep. I just and get to sit down, which was pretty awesome as well. But I think I only really didn't enjoy the last 10K. So probably the last 3 hours or so probably were my least favourite. And I think that was, that's pretty good, really.
Yeah.
90% of it that I like. But I haven't sort of looked back. Yeah, I've had a bit of a cry every now and again, but it's been just happy tears. It's bringing back the memories and things that I'd maybe forgotten about from overnight. And, whereas, when I finished Oscars, I badly needed a hug when for at least a week after that. I felt traumatized by it. And, whereas I've felt nothing but joy, in the week and a half, nearly 2 weeks since UTA, and a fair bit of tiredness too, but there's this overwhelming theme of it made me really happy, and I think. If I went back and did Oscars again as a much more experienced runner, I would probably get that from Oscars.
Yeah.
It was no reflection on the company that I had. That was a highlight. Spending 2 days hiking with Ness, spending 7 hours hiking with Tina and Sorel as well on the second day. That sort of stuff. That was the highlight. The rest of it was the doing of it that was just freaking hard. It was, but UTA, while it was hard, it wasn't, there was little bits of it. And I remember Ness said to me on the start line, she said, now just don't forget, she said, when it gets tough out there, she said, I want you to think of it on a scale of 1 to Oscars. How hard is it? Keep it in perspective. It's not, she having had the perspective of doing both, that she was able to say, there's nothing in this that is as hard as Oscars. But, and that was right. There was hard bits and there was some scary bits, the whole ladders thing that had me freaked out a little bit. And the giant stairs, they were personal challenges for me, but it's not, it wasn't a super, super technical course like Oscars. Was, yeah, but no, the overwhelming feeling of just this happiness. I don't think I've come down yet. I'm still nearly 2 weeks into my runner's high, and I'm lapping it up. So,
well, now there's a video of it, so it's more honest.
Living in immortality, but I think there was a apart from the technicality of the course, there were some obvious differences between doing a 2-day event versus doing a 1-day continuous event. And while after on that first sleepover night, that sleepover night that we had at Oscars, you sleep like crap. You're on a mattress. You're confined to a sleeping bag, and you're sharing in a tent with somebody. You just move your elbow 2 inches to the right, and you're bumping elbows with the person you're sharing with, and that sort of thing. But that was, having those few hours sleep gives you back a little bit of clarity of mind. The downside is getting your body moving, I guess, after 12 hours of downtime. That was a struggle. Whereas with UTA, the con is that you stay awake for however long it takes you to finish it. Most people don't stop, and I'd say 99% of people don't stop and have a nap in the middle of UTA. It's some people might get waylaid at an aid station at a medical tent, and be not allowed to continue on until they get cleared to continue, but they're not having a nap, sort of thing. So you're dealing with that cumulative fatigue, but by the same token, you stop for maybe 20 minutes at an aid station and you keep going, and your body doesn't have enough time to decide that it's time to stop and rest and seize up. So it's kind of, I don't think my body was, I was incredibly tired by the time I finished, but I think my body was probably in a better condition than in the last few hours of Oscars. And that's probably got a lot to do with the technicality of the terrain and the extra elevation over the same distance and all that sort of thing. But, that last shot up further steps probably felt better 2 weeks ago than what it did after the 50 last year and the 22 the year before. It was there was I'm just trying to think, but it was it was there's sort of that the cumulative tiredness and was certainly the biggest thing for me. I think that was my undoing in the end. In the last 10 kilometres, I was just beyond tired. I'd been awake for nearly 30 hours by that stage, and I was just delirious. Delirious. I just kept crying and crying and crying. I'm so happy. I'm so lucky. I'm more tears. I just cried and cried and cried. Everything, a leaf would fall and I'd cry. So, but then at the same time, all you want to do is curl up in the dirt and go to sleep. I can understand how people can do that.
I sometimes feel like that even after just doing, I've been doing tempo intervals or something, and the compulsion to maybe I could just go over there and lie down. So that's after only about an hour.
The only problem is you're just never going to get up again. But yeah, I think it did prove to me that that they're not all like that. They're not all that hard, and that Oscars just felt impossible at times. It was like a matter of, I don't know how I can continue on, but I'm certainly not going back the way I've just come. That was the mindset. You just had no choice. Whereas UTA, and I you just sort of, it was fun. It was, it was a great celebration to be a part of. It's and it's an amazingly beautiful part of of this country. It's just crazy how beautiful it is up there. But whether or not, it's hard to tell. Was it easier because I'd done Oscars? I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
That strength and what didn't feel like it at the time, but the strength and fitness and conditioning that I gained from doing Oscars made UTA easier. And also from a perspective point of view, I guess, in that, once you've had to deal with, once having dealt with Oscars and what challenges that threw at me, to then do UTA was it's sort of, that it gives you the perspective of, well, I know that this is not the hardest thing I've ever done because I did that 3 months ago. So yeah, it's but it was just a joy to be a part of it. I can't wait to go back. I'm excited to go back and do it again. And God, it wasn't even 2 weeks ago that we did it. So I finished.
The post-event amnesia surely hasn't even kicked in yet.
Hasn't even, like I still. Yeah, I'm excited to go back. I won't do the 100K next year. I've got other runs that I want to do that are not in May next year, and I might not even get back to do the 100 the year after. It might be a few years from now, but yeah, I'm excited that one day I will get to go back and do that again.
Out of the distances, do you feel like you have a preference now, or?
Yes, 100. That's my favourite. It's my favourite of the three. It really is. Yeah, the 22. The 22 is fun, but you don't see much. You start in a clearing with some trees around you, and you run down into a valley, and you hike back out again. And if the weather's shit, you don't see a thing.
Yeah.
But if it's a beautiful, clear day, yeah, you can see the Three Sisters and you can see Scenic World. And coming up the further steps, you turn around at one point and there's this perfectly framed picture of the Three Sisters in the background. But if it's cloudy and foggy, that's it. You don't see anything. And I think it's the 50K was just a misery of stairs for me last year. I just kept thinking to myself, when will these stairs finish?
Yeah.
20 kilometres of stairs, and I was just, God, am I still here? Seriously, are we still on stairs? Like, I had no idea what to expect because this 22's got barely any stairs and the 50K's got 8,500. And the 100, I don't know, yeah, I got so much more joy from the 100K than I did from the 22 or the 50. So I'd say that out of the three, having done the three, that the 100K was actually my favourite. But, it takes effort. You've got crew, you can't drive yourself home that day, you're exhausted. And if you're like me and it takes you a really long time to do it, then it's, that's the thing as well. But, yeah, but there was no being scared of the dark. There was no...
Did you have plenty of practice with night?
Not really. No, not really. I did a couple of night runs in training for when I was going to be pacing for Jo when she did Alpine Challenge, the miler, and I ran overnight with her that night. And I run in the dark sometimes, but not very often. Probably Oscars. Yeah, I had, we spent 5 or 6 hours hiking in the dark at Oscars. So I guess that's a little bit of experience, but not, it's hard to get experience running at night without participating in events that run overnight.
Yeah.
It's, because, it's not really, it's so easy to get lost when you run at night. There's dodgy people out there. So, if doing it with other people, I feel much safer. But it's not something I'd go and do by myself, go and run at 10 o'clock at night around some, certainly not locally. I'd want to have somebody with me because it can be a bit, because you just, and you'd have to know the area pretty well, at least if it's signposted with an event, then it's, you don't have to worry so much about where you're going. You just follow the tags because you've got no context. You've got nothing to figure out where you are.
Yeah.
So, and your world but the beauty of it is that your world just shrinks. You just got that, you live in that lamplight. You've got no other worries. doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what the place looks like. You've just got to concentrate on that little pool of light that's in front of you, and it sort of reduces everything down to that, which is kind of nice, I guess.
Helps you stay in the moment instead of thinking too far ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I only really got tired at about 4 o'clock in the morning. I think I yawned for the first time at 3:30 in the morning. It was just, but then I've got the benefit of being a shift worker for the last 20 years, so I'm used to having to do that kind of, keeping crazy hours and things. So I didn't know, but apparently I've been training for ultra running for a long time. So it's just fatigue training. So yeah.
So what have you got? Have you got anything booked in now?
Yes. Of course. Yes, I do. I'm going to do the 25k at Wingelow in August. And then there's a night run about a week later, another local run down in Canberra, just outside of Canberra. They have started organising a night course. So I'm really excited to do that in September. In November, I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to do the 100k at Alpine Challenge down at Falls Creek. That makes me feel a little bit sick saying that. I feel really intimidated by that run. It's a really tough country, and it's a lot of elevation, and there's some cut-offs, and that's going to be the run that keeps me honest.
What kind of cut-offs does it have?
Well, it's the first couple of cut-offs, to be able to cover, I don't know, 30k in 6 hours or something, or 7 hours, or I don't know. There's some cut-offs. I've looked at them vaguely, but I don't recall exactly what they are. But it's sort of the same as UTA. Like, I was only half an hour ahead of the first two checkpoint cut-offs.
Yeah.
Obviously, they expect that things will take you longer the further the race goes on, but those first few cut-offs are always a little bit less generous. I feel a little bit intimidated by that race, but I'm gonna give it a bash, and I don't, there's no guarantees, and I think if I try, with that, I'll just give it a shot. We'll see what happens. I'm not gonna not do it just in case I don't finish.
Yeah.
And then I've already entered a race for next year, and I'm going to go and do the 25k at Australian Alpine Ascent at Kosciuszko next February, because it's the same race that I did my first 50k at, and I actually really enjoyed that first lap. Didn't really enjoy the second lap.
I don't really like laps as a general rule. The things that something about like going past the finish line and keeping on going that
it was really
does not
hard.
Speak to me.
Yeah, it's not. It's just, don't offer me a sandwich. I just need to keep moving. And that 25k, it's beautiful out there, and it's completely different from UTA. It's you're exposed above the tree line for 99% of the run. It's just stunning. And there's a really awesome cafe at Jindabyne that does the best breakfast. And I've been meaning to get back there for like a year. And have I made it happen yet? No. So I'm going to use this race as my excuse to go back to Birchwood at Jindabyne and have a really delicious breakfast. And I'll get to hang out with Corinne and Corinne, and Michelle's going to do it as well, I think, and we might get a few extras in, hopefully. But yeah, I think it's probably got fond memories. Me ugly crying at the finish line. but yeah, it's a stunning part of the world, and I think it'll be interesting to see how 2 years on how it changes. Yeah, how I feel about that, the climbs and the descents and things like that. It's kind of a nice way to see what your body's done in the last 2 years, I guess. Yeah.
So plenty to keep you busy.
Yeah, just a few things. And I'll definitely go to UTA again next year, much to my husband's disgust. So it's just such an awesome weekend. So I don't know, I'll do the shorter distances at UTA next year, because I really want to volunteer and be a part of it from that angle as well. 3 years in a row I've done it, but I haven't volunteered, and I think next year it'd be an awesome opportunity to give back to that community, which is something that most of us don't get time to do, and so that's going to be my priority for UTA next year. Yeah, and not worry so much about myself and my running, and actually just really enjoy and relax and have a great time. So
yeah, I keep meaning to go somewhere and not race. It's like
and not because you're injured. No,
like just to go and enjoy sort of like being traveling and being somewhere without the stress of a race, where I can just sort of like eat and like have a good time, hang out with people. Yeah. And every time I go to a race, I'm like, I could do this and not run. That is something that could happen at some stage.
But I think you have to plan it as a separate thing, as a separate experience, an actual, rather than a race that that you wish you were running or something. You've sort of got to set aside a weekend an event to do that at, because otherwise you get, it's too easy to feel like you should be.
I mean, like there's always sort of like more sort of social runs. Like I'm looking at Jetty to Jetty, being a couple of weeks after Gold Coast, and be no way I'd be looking at running
race.
No, that seems like an unpleasant situation, but it's a beautiful. I really like the half course. It's very pretty. There's plenty of people going, and so like it's just
it's a social weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So those ones are nice, and probably look at the same for something like that at UTA.
Yeah,
do the 11, do some stairs. Lots of stairs.
You need to do lots of stairs and practice eating while you're going up and down stairs. That's key. It is key to success at UTA, eating while moving over stairs. And Melbourne Marathon's later in the year. So, but I'm actually thinking about the same weekend as Melbourne Marathon is the Human Hobble Trail.
Oh yeah.
Weekend, and I'd like to go down there. I've been meaning to get there for a few years. So I'm currently tossing up whether that if I'm going to come down to Melbourne, do I go to Melbourne, or do I to be part of it and do I don't know. Even the concept of not running at Melbourne Marathon is fine with me. I love Melbourne. It's just an awesome place to be. It doesn't have to be somewhere, an event based around that, but or whether I go to Human Hobble and do that and sort of because that sounds like an awesome weekend too. So so there's a couple of things, sort of on the radar, and long term I've sort of identified that I'd really love to go and do the Lavorado ultra trail run that's in Italy in the Dolomites, which is run in June. So I'd really like to go and do that, but I have to wait a few years. I have to save up my pennies. It's not cheap to get over there.
No.
And if I wait a little bit longer and the kids are old enough to palm off to my parents to look after them, maybe Julian could come with me and we could actually, I don't know, God forbid, have a holiday together. So I might I don't know. I might have to make that a longer term goal, or I could just, do what we did last year and make it a girls' running holiday, which is pretty awesome as well.
Very good. Heidi
So,
starts school next year.
sorry?
Heidi starts school next year.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, she just turned 5 yesterday, so that was really exciting. And
Did she have a good birthday?
yeah, she's had about 4 birthday cakes. She had a unicorn cake on the weekend, and then we had cupcakes for preschool yesterday, and then we had to have a mermaid cake yesterday evening. So we're pretty much caked out, and we're having more cake tonight because we've got family. My in-laws are coming this afternoon to celebrate with her, so I'm sure we'll have a bit more cake tonight. Which is all wonderful recovery food. It's doing wonders for my recovery, and so she starts school next year, so that opens up. I'm sure I could start running 6 days a week next year. I don't see how I can avoid that happening. So I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to go with the flow and with that. But yeah, I can just about smell the freedom. It's ideally
so
having
nice.
her at home, and she's a lot of fun. But I'm so glad she's going to school next year.
At a certain point, you also kind of know they're just ready. When like Piper started, like she was young, but if I'd like waited another year, it would have been too long. She'd already been at preschool for a couple of years, and she would have just been like bouncing off the the walls, being at home. And I was at the gym the other day, and one of the guys his wife has just had her second baby, and he said, "You ever think about having one more?" I'm like, my youngest is 8, so cold day in hell before that happens.
I know. My husband said the other night, we should have another baby. Shut that down. I know, he's only staring me, but no way, absolutely no way. 4 is more than enough for me to handle, and my sanity to handle. I don't think I could. No way. I'm done driving a van.
I think also like the further, like when I was more in the thing where like I had, like a preschooler and a toddler, it's a lot easier to think about having like adding another, like what at that point, what difference does it make?
I know.
Whereas now, like
no,
I can leave them at home and like go and do the shopping, and like I drop Piper off at school. Today, and she started like walking in on her own, and I'm like, "I'll see you, man." She's like, "Yeah, bye, whatever. I don't know why you're hanging around here for."
What are you still doing here, Mum?
And just like all of that stuff, you just forget how intense like babies are.
Oh yeah, they're really cute, but to be honest, I'd rather get a puppy. I'd rather get a puppy now.
Yeah, I just every time like that's why I've got the kitten, because I was like, I get a kitten, and it worked out well because now the other cat is less crazy because he's got company. So and I'm not in charge of kitty litter.
No,
somebody else does that.
Somebody else. And your kids are old enough to be in charge of kitty litter things. It's not. I think I'm not mentally ready for a puppy in the house yet, but I'm getting close. I'm working myself up to it. It's just those first, the first few months of puppies waking in the middle of the night and puddles on the floor and things like that. I'm not sold on yet. I could put a nappy on my kids, stop that from happening, but puppies are a bit different. But no, it's I'm so done with having kids. I just take it's it was it's fun. I want some time back to myself to do things that I want to do, rather than having to go to library rhyme time and buy Play-Doh and things like that. I just It's
make toast for the 10th time because the first 9 times the toast was not right.
It was not right, and you didn't
right.
cut correctly, and you didn't put the right condiment on in the right quantity,
in the right order.
Yeah. No. She's improved out of sight in the last 6 months, and she's a lot less hard work than what she used to be. Her nickname is Hurricane Heidi, and she is like a force of nature, and she knows what she wants, and she is not shy about getting it done regardless of what your opinion is. But she's actually mellowed a little bit. I think preschool is helping her. It's stimulating for her and all that sort of stuff, and I think she'll thrive when she gets to kindergarten next year. She'll love it.
How the youngest kids tend to be like that. Like Piper's like that too, and it's almost like I sort of look at her and I'm like, you really have zero care factor about what anyone else thinks. Like it's almost hypnotic to watch, because it's just like possibly the only person's opinion who she cares about is Riley's.
Yeah.
But other than that, she can give a crap. It's like,
and even then, it's more of a, if you're not with me, you're against me kind of attitude. It's like, join my gang and let's go. Let's go wreak havoc. But otherwise, if you're not going to come with me on my adventure, I don't even want to know you. That's Heidi. She's just, I'm going outside. Okay, I've stopped trying to stop her from going outside when it's 2 degrees at 7 o'clock in the morning. It's more like, okay, can you put your jacket and your shoes and socks on, please? That's my, if it's going to happen, let's just make it happen without you freezing your toes off.
But when I picked up Piper yesterday, she's like, I'm going to take off my shoes. We have not made it home yet. And she's just there in her socks. I'm like, okay. Give me the socks so you don't destroy the socks. And she's like, but then my feet will get cold. And I'm like, that's what the shoes are for. So you can either have the shoes on or the socks off. Pick one. And she's like, socks off. I'm like, okay. We're doing it. And
I don't want to put those shoes
we
back on.
Live somewhere where I will not get docks on my tail for having somebody walk home without like any shoes on, because it's not actually that cold.
No, and it's not really that common, I'm sure.
So yes, but like it's they are just like complete forces of nature.
Oh, she's incredible, and she's and it's totally endearing. It's incredibly frustrating, but it's 100% endearing at the same time. But no, you got to. It's not about winning the battles. It's about picking the battle that really means the most to you. With kids like her, it's what do we actually need to? What do I need to stand my ground on?
Which hill do I want to die on? Is this it? Probably not.
Probably not this particular one. No, not the shoes off outside Bizzo and whatever else. It's the please don't eat the food off the floor at the supermarket.
Yeah, like at the moment she's insisting on wearing. Sarah after a race gave me this hoodie jacket because I was cold, and she told me I could keep it, so I did. Anyway, Piper's now obsessed with it, and she wears it to school, and it covers everything. So, like, it looks like she's not actually wearing any clothes under there, but she 100% is. The other day, we were about to walk out the door. She's like, oh, I don't have any shorts on under this. And I'm like, good catch, buddy.
That's too cute. They just don't care. But she probably didn't see that there was a problem with that at all.
No, there's no problem with that.
No, that's it. Yeah. But yeah, so no, that's they're too cute, aren't they? Even cuter when they go to school.
That's right. Oh, man.
So yeah. Well, yeah.
We better get back to eating.
Yeah, probably. Has that all the questions and things about?
I think so. probably the only thing that we didn't quite talk about is what you ate.
Oh, yep.
On the 100.
Yep.
And like what that actually like looks like in terms of you know, like how much is hiking, how much is running, how much is checkpointing, you know,
Yep.
like that sort of thing, you know, like in terms of the distance. Like, is it predominantly you hiking up and then running what you can run?
Yeah, like I ran the first bit that's on the road, and because there's people watching,
Yeah.
so you sort of feel like you should
Be
probably
a bit
run.
awkward otherwise.
No, but my legs, I felt my legs felt a bit sluggish and tired when I started, which is always a bit of it's never comforting at the beginning of the race, let's face it. So I had planned to be really conservative in that first sort of 5 or 6K, because last year I wasn't, and that was stupid. So but it was easy to be conservative this year. So it was sort of because my legs felt didn't feel fabulous when I first started running. So, and you've got a fair bit of upper road. You've got to do a little out and back. So I ran all that. I ran, walked, all that. And then once you get onto the stairs, it's sort of, there was little bursts of jogging, little bursts of running, but, sort of 10 to 20 metres of runnable stuff, and then you'd have some stuff that wasn't runnable, or, it very much in the front of my mind was, I'm going to be out here for a long time. Don't wreck yourself. Don't bugger it up. Don't race now when you need to conserve energy for later. Yeah. 24 hours from now, you want to be, finishing up, and you don't want to be in a world of pain. So, so I was very aware of that. Like, that was literally front and center in my mind. So in the first checkpoint's at 11.5K, and there's probably 6 kilometres of that is stairs and single track. So you go down the further steps and you go along some single track, you go over the landslide and you go up the golden stairs. And you get to the top of the golden stairs, and then there's fire trail. And the fire trail is runnable, fire trail, absolutely. But it's sort of a undulating fire trail. And so I sort of thought, well, there was a lot of uphill, not crazy uphill, but there was uphill. And I thought to myself, this feels a bit hard. I'm just going to hike it.
Yep.
I'm not going to flog myself now, because I know what's coming.
Yeah.
In the second 50K. So I settled in, poles out, had my sticks out, and I was hiking, and I was moving, there was people who were walking it, and I would catch them on their walk and they would take off on their run, and I would catch them on their walk and they would take off on their run. And, I thought, how much more energy are they expending than me?
A lot.
And I'm moving at the same speed, minutes per kilometre as what they are.
Yeah.
In an overall pace. And they were working hard. Yeah. And they looked exhausted. And so not long after that checkpoint, a guy sort of came up behind me and I fell into step with him. And he was moving at a reasonably brisk pace, I would say. It was probably the top end of my hiking pace. And I fell into step. I was happy to work a bit harder to keep pace with him. There's someone to talk to and a bit of company. And so I ran a little bit of single track after we did the terrace ladders at about 20 kilometres in, and I ran a little bit when I was reaching the end of the road, the Kadumba Road that goes down into the valley, which is at 84 kilometres in. And that was about all I ran. The rest of it I hiked. I didn't walk. hiked.
Yeah.
Like I was hiking with purpose. There was a lot less purpose in the last 10 kilometres, but that was the last 10 kilometres, and that was
which you're just going to expect anyway.
So that was fatigue, and there was a lot of crying. So there was a lot of wasted energy on crying.
Sometimes it's hard not to hyperventilate when you're crying too. And then
it's really there's a fine line between breathing and not breathing. So I hiked. I would say that I probably hiked about 90 kilometres of that 100k. And there was, when I was talking to this fellow who I was hiking with for about, we were hiking together for probably around 18k, and he was saying there is people there who go there year after year after year, who finish in under 20 hours, who hike the whole thing.
That's an impressive pace.
Crazy. That's a crazy pace of hiking, but or they run anything that's downhill, and they hike everything else. They hike every single hill, and they run every now and again to make up time. There's an old guy who's in his 60s who hikes it every year, and he does it in 24 hours. And he said, he's wearing a yellow top. If you stick with him, you won't go far wrong. Every year, every 10th time he's done it, every year he hikes the whole thing and he finishes in 24 hours. So, and he was going by the battery life of his watch, this guy that I was with, and he didn't even bother starting his watch because he knew that the battery life of his watch, when it wasn't tracking GPS, was 20 hours. No, 24 hours. 24 hours. He had to charge his watch every day. So 24 hours he had charge on his watch, not turned on to track, and he was hoping to finish before his watch went flat. But he didn't care. He didn't care what kilometre he was up to. He'd done it. That was his third time of doing it. He hadn't trained for it. He'd been injured and whatever else. And, he'd managed to do one run a week or something, but he knew what he was getting into and thought he'd just hike the whole thing. So, predominantly 90k of hiking and 10k of running, but absolutely hiking with purpose for most of it. There was some times when I was moving slower than I probably could have, but I was hiking with Sam at that point, and she was struggling. She didn't have enough food. She was nauseated. She was cold, and I wasn't going to leave her out in the middle of the night. Like we're talking, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I wasn't prepared to leave her out there. So I was moving slower to help her along. So time closer to the 24 hours probably would have been possible if I had been moving at a pace that I was pushing myself a little bit more during those few hours or those few kilometres. So food-wise, best thing ever, chicken sandwiches at the aid stations. Apologies being a vegetarian, but it was seriously awesome. Chicken sandwich on white bread with a soda water and a chocolate bar at checkpoint 3 at the 6-foot track aid station, which was 46k in, and then the same again at 57k. I bought a stack of Clif bars and I ate 2 of them. I would have bought 10 or 12 and I ate 2. I didn't feel like them, so past the eating of the first 2, I didn't feel like them, so I just didn't eat them. I had one in my pack as sort of an emergency, but I got Ness to get rid of them out of my pack. I had lollies, I had jerky. Jerky was really lovely, nice and salty, and
just different.
Creates that saliva in your mouth. Gels, my spring gels. I was probably, what else? I took potatoes. I didn't like them. I didn't even want to eat them. They looked horrendous. They looked terrible. They weren't appetizing at all. And the odd chocolate bar. But I don't think, and I had my water. I was trialing water. Have been using Trail Brew in the past, and I've found that it makes me really thirsty, so I've stopped using it as a liquid nutrition while I'm doing these runs, and I just have water in my flasks, and I have, in one of my flasks, I have the 500 mils of water, and I put a electrolyte tablet, like a shots electrolyte tablet. So it's got no carbs in it. It's just potassium and sodium and magnesium. But it's a little bit, because of the saltiness of it, it's a bit of a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit fizzy, so it helps decompress your stomach every now and again, so you get a few good burps out. And I think that went a long way to preserving my nutrition. I don't think I ate enough. I didn't. I don't think I ate enough certainly in the first half. But the good thing about eating the sandwiches and the soda and the chocolates at the aid stations where Ness and Danielle and Hayley were, was it kept me full for at least, an hour and a half, 2 hours afterwards. So I didn't have to eat.
Yeah.
Having that real food in your stomach was incredible. And I didn't force myself to eat in the time immediately after having that, because I knew that would sort of sustain me. And it was also a really nice change of on your palate to have real food that had flavour and texture and, consistency that wasn't baby food like. But I got to the finish line and I was starving. I was so hungry. So I think I didn't drink any Coke for the whole run, except when I was in the recovery room. I had pumpkin soup and bread and butter at the at checkpoint 5 at the Queen Vic Hospital checkpoint, and I had 2 cups of sweet tea. But I probably should have eaten more then, if anything. Like, that was the checkpoint that I didn't eat enough. Considering I still had 5 or 6 hours worth of effort to go, I should have eaten more, I think. Had another cup of soup and more bread and But it was also, by that stage it starts to get a bit harder to, it was 3:30 in the morning. Pumpkin soup and bread and butter isn't exactly what you feel like eating at that time of the night. But it was lovely and hot, and but I just didn't eat enough compared to how much I'd eaten at the previous aid stations. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, gels, Clif bars, jerky, lollies, and the sandwiches. Those chicken sandwiches were amazing. They were just, they were fantastic. I think Ness bought me a coffee at the aquatic centre checkpoint at 57 k's, and I had a few sips and I didn't feel like it. So that was it. That was all I had.
And that was the only time that would ever happen in your entire...
I know, right? Yeah. It's like, I'm not really into this. There may have been an argument about chocolate bars at some point and about how many Mars bars I thought I had compared to how many Mars bars I actually had. But we won't go into that. There might have been some raised voices. But and I think Ness even made me eat a Snickers bar that she dropped on the floor. So, but no, it was. I think the importance of being able to stomach real food on a run that length is like pretty high, because the problem, the lady I was with who had run into trouble, she had goo chews and salt tablets, and she'd had some boiled potatoes, and that was her nutrition basically. And after 12, 13, 14 hours of running, the goo chews,
not nice.
Hiking, goo chews 3 every hour for 14 hours. There comes a point where you just can't force yourself to eat those little suckers.
I mean, even like you see in those like people who are in those eating competitions, like say they've got to eat, like it's a
40
competition to eat
teaspoons.
ice cream or
Yeah.
whatever, they'll take a break in the middle and have some hot chips, and that will
Yeah.
trick their brain into be able to eat more ice cream because of the change in texture. And I think it's just like people think that if you like oh, I just can't like eat before I run.
Yeah.
You know, and because I used to think that too. I was like, oh, you know, like I can't eat anything and it doesn't sit well. But
Yeah.
it's just like anything. It's just a skill that you
Yeah.
practice. And
Yeah.
it's like even now before like workouts and stuff, I will, if I haven't made anything overnight to have, like I just like chuck some muesli and milk and like eat that before
Yeah.
I leave, because it just adds just a little bit more. Because like I'll have like carb powder in sort of like in liquid, but
Yeah.
having that in my stomach as well, you know, like get like a bit more of a slow burn from that, and just like the more that you get in, the
Yeah.
better it will be. And
Yeah.
it's particularly like today I've run out of gels because like I need like some kind of like pipeline supply chain.
You need a warehouse.
And I go out too early to like pop into the supermarket and pick any up, and so I knew that. So like I'd put like double carb powder into the pre-workout, just some more, and I was like, no, I should have some breakfast too, and chuck that in there. And even with that, like I got to the first 2 repetitions were good, and I got to the last one, I'm like, yeah, we could use some more carbs right about now. But you get better at it, you know, like I can have, you know, there have been situations where I've not realised that I'm going for a run until like my plan comes through, and I'm like, oh, it's a run day today and I've just had lunch. You know, like what's the worst that could happen? And you just get
Tell you what's the worst that can happen. No, it's never better on the second passing.
You just get
you get used to it, but you train yourself to get used to it, don't you? You start off small. You don't start off having a full breakfast.
No,
you start having a shot of coffee, or you start off having a couple of bites of a banana. You don't even start with the whole banana. Just have half a banana,
or like even like half a bit of toast with some jam in it, you know, like, or you know, just like a
something
teensy bit of something, you know, and then you get better at it, because it's also not just stomaching it, it's also teaching your body to be able to use it. Because a lot of the time when you don't have anything, it's like, what is this thing that you've put in there? I don't know how to use that. I've never had to do that before.
Your body's busy fueling your muscles and pumping blood through your heart and your lungs. So there's not a great deal of blood supply to your stomach when you're running and hiking. And absolutely, it's easier to keep your nutrition on point when you're hiking as opposed to running, because you don't get the same level of stomach upset that you do when you're running because of the, you know, you're not stirring it up quite so much, and you know, you've got a little bit more available blood supply to your digestive system. And that's why the trickle effect, you know, trickling that food in is much better idea than eating, you know, lots and lots of food, you know, once an hour instead of eating every sort of 10 or 15 minutes, you know. And that's the I think that's key when you start to run longer distances or hike longer distances, and having a variety of food available to you that you can choose from. Like I had way more food than I needed to have with me, but you never know what you're going to feel like. And if it's 20k to the next aid station and I'm going to be 6 hours out there or 5 hours out there, then I want to know that I've got a variety of food that I can stick my hand into my pack to get, depending on what it is that I feel like eating at the time. And you know, it might be you know, like I had so many gels left over. I thought I had one for every hour that I was going to be out there, and I think I probably had half that number. But I hadn't accounted for how satisfying those sandwiches were going to be, while I was running, or that kind of thing. So it's I think nutrition is one of those things that's, when you're going to go longer, you really need to start giving it some thought. I had a friend who did the 22K the other week at UTA, and she's just, she hadn't practiced it on her long runs, even though I told her to, recommended that she did. And she used to be a marathon runner, she's no stranger to long distance running.
You'd be surprised how many people run marathons without any fueling whatsoever.
But she can run a marathon faster than what she ran that 22K the other week. She's done Boston Marathon. She time qualified for Boston Marathon. When 15 years ago. So she was no slouch when it came to running a fast marathon back in her day. She took a 3 hours 45 to run the 22 at UTA, which is a fabulous time considering she doesn't do a lot of trail running. She's really quite new to trail running. But she was like, oh, when did Kirsten tell me I had to eat? And I don't remember, and now I feel sick, and like she got to the stairs and she was, she realised she hadn't drunk enough, she hadn't eaten enough, she hadn't, and by then it was too late.
Yeah.
She eaten or drunk something, then she would have lost it over the side of the stairs. It was not, she got to the point where she was way underfueled and underhydrated, and I think she, for her, it was an important lesson to her. When we sort of had caught up and had a coffee afterwards, a few days later, that was her standout. That was the thing that she felt would have changed the run for her, was nutrition, 100%. So, she was, it was just, it's something that you have to practice. You just can't go in blind on the day. You'll risk putting yourself at risk and other people at risk, and
and just
not
and a lot of it too, I find, is finding things that are it's often goes against what you would normally do with your nutrition. So it's finding something that is really calorie dense. Can I if I can easily, not when I'm running, but if I'm sitting at home and I've trawled through the chocolate aisle for something that I want, and I get those chocolate covered licorice bullets.
Hello, yeah.
I can easily pack away 1,000 calories in no time flat on those things. Yep. But if I attempted to do that with whole foods, that's a shit ton of food. Yeah. But something like that, very easy, no problem. And with sort of races or long events, you've got to sort of take that approach to it. What is quite small, lots of calories, going to give me lots of energy that I'm going to feel like I want to eat.
Tell you what, a Mars bar. Mars bars are awesome. My new favourite. But you want something that's going to, in 2 bites, in 2 mouthfuls, is going to give you, a couple of hundred calories, a whole bunch of carbs, and it's just, But I think it's everybody's so different when it comes to nutrition. Some people prefer gels, some people prefer chews, some people prefer whole foods and, homemade stuff and all that sort of stuff. There is literally something out there for everybody. It is just a matter of finding what it is and keep trying until you find what it is that suits you and your palate and your gag reflex and, your texture preferences and all that sort of stuff. Because there's just, I'm sure there are people who are super talented and fat adapted and all the rest of it who can run 50K fasted, but not when it's going to take you 9, 10, 12, 14 hours to cover that distance. You just... Yeah.
I mean, any time there's anything intense, and that can happen, it doesn't matter if you're talking about 10Ks or 50, that can happen at any time. Anytime there's any kind of level of intensity, your performance is gonna suffer with with being fat adapted or fasted. Like it's they've done a gazillion studies on it. It's all the same. Like it's not gonna change. I mean, in terms of like the long distance, you probably have even more options of what you can eat, because like one of the main reasons why gels are there is because they hit your system more quickly. But you got time when you're doing 100 Ks, so that it's okay. Like as long as you start early, it's okay for it to, be just kind of be coming in its own time. But I think that's the biggest mistake that people have with whether it's like road races or longer races, thinking of like they read that thing of, I've got to have this amount every hour, so I'll wait until I'm an hour in to have my first thing, and it's like it's too late.
And what fuels the first hour? Like that's the mistake they make, isn't it? What fuels that first hour? It certainly wasn't the breakfast you had 3 hours ago.
Yeah. And because you know that by the time you get to the end, there's no possible way that you've actually consumed enough food. So you're just trying to kind of like cut down on that as much as possible in the beginning. So then if you don't start for an hour or two, you're going to be even more in the hole by the time you get to the end.
I think I was standing at the start line, and I thought, geez, I should have bought a banana with me. I was starving. I'd eaten breakfast at 5:30 in the morning, and it was 2.5 hours later, and we were waiting to start, and so I ate half a Clif Bar. It's like, this is what I bought it for. The good thing is it doesn't matter how bulky it is. You've got a pack. You've got the wherefore to be able to carry it with you. So. And God bless tots with pockets, because you can chuck everything in your pockets if you want that's got easy access. But I think the longer you're going to be out there, the more complicated things can get in a way, but also they get a little bit simplified as well. My goal was finish. My goal was have fun, enjoy it, not hate it. And I think I pretty much, I hit it on the head with both of those things. I've got the medal to prove it, and I've still got a grin on my face to prove the other things. So, but it taught me, I think there's a lot to consider when you take on those longer distances. But it's all just, it's good fun, isn't it? You get out there and do what you love and enjoy it while, encourage other people to jump on board with the craziness, join my cult, drink my Kool-Aid. I want more people to love it as much as I do. But anywho. So
So our plan of not having a 3-hour podcast is gone down the gurgler. Pity. Anyway, we tried.
Sorry. Not sorry. It's good. It's good. It's good for that next long run.
Yeah, exactly.
Doing a favour.
What have I got? Got a 30k long run this week with a.
You won't listen to this again, then, no.
I'm already listening, because I will listen to it when I edit it. So,
sorry.
But see how much of that lawn mowing got in there.
Yes, how much I interviewed with but it's nice to have the opportunity to talk about it, and it's and to talk about to answer some of the questions that I would imagine people have got, when it comes to trail running or even, ultra running in general. It doesn't have to be on the trail to be ultra running. It's just...
I mean, most of it is like there are, I think in Australia there are like a couple of ultra events that happen on the road, or I think sometimes they even have like a track one, don't they, where they run around and
the 24 hours, 12 hour.
But for the most part, it is on trail, because if you're going to be doing it for that long, you might as well have something to look at.
Who wants to be running around in circles?
I'm sure on the road a lot more of it is to do with sort of like road closures and as well. But yeah, I've looked at, like, I think that they have one on the Gold Coast that it's like 100 Ks doing like 6 point something or other loops, and I was like, yeah, that's not a fun day for me.
I don't see, that's not something that floats my boat, I have to say. Yeah, I would toy with the idea of a 24-hour track race, like a track, one of those track events, or a 12-hour. I'm amazed by how much distance people can cover in those things.
Oh, that's amazing.
Absolutely amazed by it. But and the benefit is that you have your crew every 400 meters. You know, you've got your drink station set up. You've got a tent to sit in. You've constantly got people around you to talk to. You know, people walk backwards, people walk sideways, you know, to change up their gait, and, you know, you can have an hour rest and all this sort of stuff. It'd be really interesting, but you'd have to have a support crew there to keep your spirits up and, you know, make you laugh.
Yeah,
like
it would take a certain level of like mental strength. Like I've even, like with getting darker, you know, like, and getting up early, like having to do like a couple of loops of a well lit area in Ballina to finish things. Like I find myself getting irritated with that, and that's like a 15k loop. It's fine, like it's not. Or when it was even darker, when I had to sort of do like 5Ks like back and forth on like the well lit area, and I'm like, yeah, but that's like 400 meters going round and round. But it's easy to forget, like when I'm doing that, I'm on my own. Like it would be different if you had like people there, and, you know, it's a completely different environment.
Yeah, we should do that one day. We could test that out.
I'll just go onto the running calendar and check it out, and we'll see what we register for.
Let's shelve that idea for now. That's probably one of my worst ideas, but that's okay. Anyway, we better wrap it up. Otherwise, we'll keep talking. So there'll be a 6-hour podcast,
and children won't get picked up.
No, and I have to buy avocados before I pick the kids up from school. So, but thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. And
I think it's always good to sort of like peel back the curtain, because I know like a lot of people see it and think 100 Ks, I could never do that, but it looks like that from the outside because it kind of seems insurmountable. But if you sort of like break it down into, well, first I did 20, and then like I worked up to 50, and then I worked up to 100, and
it's over a process of years. Yeah. And there has been a little bit of rhyme and reason to it. Like there has been a vague plan about it, you know, vague plan. Like, but it is a progression. Like, you know, there are people who go out and straight off the bat like to do 100K without any preparation beforehand. But for me, it's about scaffolding myself, I guess, setting myself up to be able to process it mentally, you know, and believe in myself to stand on the start line. So yeah, no, it's totally. Mind you, if you'd said when I was doing Learn to Run 4.5 years ago, whatever it is, nearly 5 years ago, that this would be something that I'd be having a conversation about, I would have fallen over laughing. I would have told you I was smoking crack or something. I don't know. There's no way I would have believed that was going to be me. No way. I just wanted to run and go for a half-hour run 3 times a week. That's all.
It's a gateway drug.
Okay. So, no, it's, you know, you don't pigeonhole yourself before you've really had a chance to discover what's out there and what you're capable of doing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so tempting to look at that, like whether it's distance or pace. Like I often have people say, you know, like, oh, like I've got this PB, but I could never run faster than that. And it's like, well, like, of course you could. Like, like it seems impossible at the time, but the benefit of looking back is like now I look at like my 30k runs, which I'm, like running, like I'm working hard, like they're not, I'm not out, they're not sort of like a long, slow distance run. But they're run at my previous like suicide interval pace.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like a lot of the training is just like you're just training not to get tired.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't necessarily have to get faster. I just need to slow down how quickly I get tired.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's sort of like, I think it's good for like those sort of ideas which you come into it going, I could never do that, or I could never do this, and it's like, well, if you want to, you could.
Absolutely. And you've just, that is key. You've got to want to. You've got to be prepared to put in the work. Absolutely. But yeah, there's so many different ways that you can explore your running. You can see how far you can go. You can see how long you can go. You can see how fast you can go. It's just, it's just, there's so many different avenues to explore, and you know what, we get to do it. We're so, it sounds really corny, but we're so lucky we get to do this. It's a joy to be out there moving your body and achieving your goals, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty heady stuff, I think, at that time.
So.
Wouldn't you agree? I just these people, we're coming into the Fairmont aid station, like this tiny little aid station at this quite snazzy little resort in Katoomba. They cover their carpet in contact when UTA's on, because they let the runners use their bathrooms, but they don't want us walking on the carpet through the foyer. So anyway, there's these people who are guests in the hotel standing outside their apartment, and they're harassing all the runners hikers as they come through, and they said, well, why are you doing this? And I just straight away I said, because I can. I can. And they said, oh, wow, okay, that's probably the best answer we've had all day. They'd obviously been out there for a while. And and they said, oh, well, why should we do it then? Why should we run 100K? And I said, because you can. Do you need any other reason except because you can? There's so many people who can't. And we're lucky enough or privileged enough or whatever else to be able to do it. So,
yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like a common question from like people probably more so like outside the running community is like, why would you do that? Like people who like, certainly who I've talked to, who would look at like my training schedule, which admittedly can look slightly bananas, but I've built it up over so long it doesn't seem that way to me. And they're like, why would you do that? And it's like, why wouldn't I do that?
I know,
if I could. And
what else would I be doing?
It's like, I don't know. Like, this is a fun time for me. Like I get to sort of like go out and run before anyone's awake, and sometimes I get to see a dolphin, often I get to see a pelican, and oftentimes the structure of like training for a goal just makes it so I don't get bored. Like, as it keeps me sort of engaged in the process.
Oh, absolutely. It gives purpose. It gives you
and otherwise I'd kind of like, you could potentially lose interest, or it could, get to feel like more like a chore than what it is, which is a privilege. So, and you kind of just get to sort of like test out you know, like where your genetic potential is, wherever that might be, and just like sort of like find out, which I think it's, you know, you get to sort of explore new places, but you also get to sort of explore yourself and like what you're capable of, and what that, you know, just, and I think that's the cool part, because that part doesn't end, you know, like there will be a time, you know, like I think that starting into running late there, you know, with my goals, which are currently about getting faster, there will be a time when that stops, like I'll reach some like either genetic potential or sort of like age potential. It's the only reason it's still going is because I started so late. Like if I'd started running when I was a teenager, I would be getting slower now, not faster. And so, but I think that's the cool thing, is that there's always new adventures, you know, like it's not like this is it and then it's all downhill from there, and it's, you know, it's just always something new.
Absolutely, yeah. And new challenges, and you can reinvent yourself. You reinvent your running if you need to, you know. It's there's just the options, the potential is just in yourself and out there for your running is, you know, you're the only person who puts limits on it. You know, what you believe you can and can't do. So it's pretty awesome. You're pretty lucky. And according to Heidi, I won the other week, so you know,
there you go.
That's it. I've reached the pinnacle of my career as a runner.
You're in the video, so I'm pretty sure if you're in the video, you won. I don't see why you would be in the video if you didn't win.
I know, right? I got a. Somebody said, I'll talk to you later, Hollywood. It made me laugh. But no, I tell you what, the crowd at that finish line made me feel like I'd won. That was pretty awesome. Pretty damn awesome. So, yeah, to have all these people screaming your name. Yes. No, anyway. Anywho, we'll have to do another scene. We could talk about running for hours.
Yeah, so we could probably a bit like the travel thing. We could actually do a podcast when you don't run 100 kilometers too.
I know. Wow. That's a bit revolutionary. I don't know about that.
Wow, you got to the end of that marathon podcast. I hope that you enjoyed listening to that as much as we enjoyed recording it. It's always so awesome to hear about Kirsten's adventures, and I will definitely look into having more conversations with her on the podcast even when she hasn't run 100 kilometers. I'm sorry about the lawnmower, unavoidable, and generally, there's no way around it because their office is sort of like attached to the back porch. So, you know, like if they're here, there's no way to soundproof it. Anyway, I will be back next week. But in the meantime, if you want to check out Run Club, you can do that at the moment. There's a 7-day free trial, so you can come and check it out, see if it's the kind of thing that's going to work for you. It includes a final surge account, whole bunch of training plans, check-ins with coaches, private Facebook group, all the things to keep you motivated, keep you accountable, and so you can start achieving those goals that maybe in the past have been more of a struggle on your own, or you've gotten sort of like part way through and then gotten a bit stuck, or maybe you're working really hard and just not kind of seeing the results that you want to see. So if you have any questions at all about that, just let me know. And other than that, I will speak to you next week.